Hey everyone, Chris, the Thrift Shop Hustler, with another What Sold on eBay video for you today. In celebration of all of our new subscribers, we actually have a very special What Sold on eBay video. Normally, we will show what has sold in our American Cancer Society eBay shop. And today, not only are we going to show you what has sold in the shop, we're going to dive a little bit deeper into select items so that you can understand these items a lot more. And why do you say you need to know that? These items are things that you can be finding at garage sales, thrift stores, estate sales, all that kind of stuff. So these videos are amazing if you're new to reselling and you're looking for stuff to resell and you might not think of some of these different things and you might come across these. That's why these videos are so important. And like I said, if you are a new subscriber, definitely click the like button. Let me know. Sound off in the comments below. Let's get right into it. Once again, I'm Chris, the Thrift Shop Hustler. I'm glad to be here. Let's learn about some stuff to sell. Up first, we have this Reploglow lighted heirloom world globe. This is an amazing piece of art here. Not only that, it actually lights up. This is vintage. I would probably say this is somewhere in the neighborhood of the 70s, could even be late 60s, as this is an amazing piece. Overall, I would definitely rate this an 8 out of 10. The globe itself is a 9.5, a 9.5 out of 10. This thing was absolutely amazing. And it's an heirloom globe. This is a 6-inch diameter. Like I said here, that's what the Reploglow image, or actually I should say the logo, looks like. They've been making globes forever. This is an amazing piece. It basically pulls out of this this kind of wooden setting that's here. As you can see, there's some surface wear on the actual furniture part, the wood stand. And to be honest, some actually collectors like this kind of stuff. It fits well in those, if you've ever seen those homes, or maybe your home has a library room, all those browns and those earth tones really pop, especially when this thing's lit like this. Some of you have seen that video where I've done this, where I've actually had this in the background, some of the newer live videos and stuff like this. But this is an amazing thing to look out for. Now, we sold this locally. This wasn't shipped. I highly suggest not shipping these. You could ship them if you want, but the potential of these getting damaged is pretty high up there. And like I said, you can do Facebook Marketplace, Let Go, or something like that to sell these locally. We sold this locally on eBay. We got $299. Now, if you can believe it, someone actually donated this thing, and it is beautiful. Like I said, if I had some deep pockets, this would have definitely been mine. It is a beautiful piece for, like I said, a study or a library room or something like that. And globes are actually really, really good sellers. Also, if the light's broken, you can easily kind of swap the bottom out by pulling the light out and fixing it. This had the original light, the original cord, all that kind of stuff was together. And if you ever see these, definitely pick these up. Now, let's talk about globes. This is part of the video where I was going to say, normally we show you what we sold and we go on to the next item. We're going to dive a little bit deeper on these globes because I think that you should know about this kind of stuff. Now, if we look up vintage globes, we could see that some of them go for pretty crazy amount of money. Now, there's these astrological globes that show the movement of the sun and the moon. Those actually go for a lot of money. There's these vintage ones right here, military aviation. As you can see here, here's another lighted one. This one went for $450, which is, and this one was even smaller than the one I had. Look out for these. There's another military one. We got a vintage Moyer globe, $350. We have a Constellation globe from NASA. We got another Replogé limited illuminated Art Deco. Here's another one that we had. This one actually looks like it's not in that great condition, and that still sold for $375. $350 for this one. So look out for globes. Look them up. If they're in really, if they okay, for globes, they look old for the most part. The vintage ones, you can usually tell. There's usually some yellowing because sometimes they're in a home where they get direct sunlight. Some of the colors might be washed off, but like this vintage World War II military one, you know, it looks like it's got the brilliant colors still. And the collectors, there's the one we sold right there for $299. And so definitely look out for those. Now, there's another kind of globe I want you to look out for. inlay globe. And for those that don't know what inlay is, it's basically like when you set, it's almost like tile work, and you set in different stones and materials. Let's see if we can get a close-up on this one, what it looks like. This one has all kinds of different stones for the different continents and the different countries and the different little areas of land. As we can see here, Saudi Arabia, North America looks like it has turquoise. These inlay globes, if you can find them, buy them. We actually had one of these in the shop the other day for $30, and I kept walking by it, and I'm like, I'm gonna look this up. I'm gonna look this up. I should have actually pulled it into the eBay room, but I just let it sit there all day, and it was a desk one like this. So it was one of these ones. It was $30, and look, this is pretty much the same one it was. This one happens to be an 8-inch globe, which is small. The one that I left on the floor was probably a 12-inch globe, and it was $30, and I swear the next minute I turned around, it was gone. Look for these things. And the thing is, for the inlay ones, make sure that they're in pristine condition. There's a lot of collectors that aren't into the inlay ones that are all damaged. These can be easily damaged if they're handled improperly and stuff like that. So definitely look out for vintage globes, inlay globes, and just globes in general, especially if they look vintage and they're in good condition. So there is that. Next up, we have this Rosenthal porcelain bird from Germany. Huge shout out to Paula in Stockton. This sold for $35. Look out for little figurines like this, especially anything that's made in Germany. Stay away from kind of little porcelain figures that say made in China. There was a whole thing when Hummels were hot. There was a lot of Chinese and Japanese reproductions for those, but quality is quality. Let's take a look at this bird. As we can see here, there's plenty of lowlights, highlights, all the paintwork that goes into these. As a matter of fact, this is a hand-painted thing, hand-glazed, beautiful bird. I don't know exactly what bird this is. It kind of looks like a sparrow a little bit. If you know what kind of bird this is, it probably actually says in the title. Let's see what kind of says. It doesn't actually say what kind of bird it is, but anything from Germany is usually a good thing to pick up, especially it's a little porcelain figures. Not all the time, but it's a good thing to start. If it's from Germany, it's probably well made. And like I've said before, when it comes to antiques and collectibles, quality is quality. You cannot reproduce quality. This is a quality piece, hand painted. Look how beautiful the feathers here are on this thing. I mean, even look at the little leg, the little raptor legs, I call them. Because birds were pretty much descendants of dinosaurs. I don't know if anyone knew that, but they are. So you can see almost a little scaly pieces in there. So definitely look out for little figurines. These things are found all the time at Goodwills and garage sales. I know estate sales, they kind of charge a little more for these kind of things just because that's just the way estate sales are. But to get a bargain on these is definitely garage sales and thrift shops. So definitely look out for these little porcelain birds. Up next is the Skylab newspaper. Now, we've talked about newspapers before in the past, and we're going to go a little bit deeper on this one in particular. The Skylab down. Now, I'm not exactly sure. I actually watched a documentary on this when I got this newspaper just to find out what it was, but I already forgot what it was. I know it was like, I think it was maybe like a space station or a satellite or something like that that went down in 1979. It was a huge deal back in the day when there wasn't really much news going on. I mean, there's always been news, but nowadays it seems like there's like some crazy thing happening every single day you turn on the TV. But Skylab down from the Tribune, as we can see here. Newspapers are hot, and some of my pro tips are, for newspapers, it's got to be specific dates like, D-Day, the sinking of Titanic. If you can find Titanic newspapers from back, what was that, 1903 or something like that, those are worth so much money. And the main tip is LA Times, Chicago Tribune, and New York Times are the three major things for major events. So if you have like a regular small town newspaper that had the D-Day, I think it was June 6th. what year was that? D-Day. Was that 1945? My apologies. But anyways, you know what I'm talking about. A small town newspaper of a really rare date, like the what do you call it? The Battle of Midway, or the Hiroshima bombing, those kind of things. The small town papers aren't worth as much as like a LA Times, a New York Times, a Chicago Tribune. Those things demand big time money, especially space related newspapers. And we're going to dive a little bit deeper into that right now. As we can see here, we can look at some newspapers here. We got a 1937 New York Times, Hindenburg Burns, $250. Also, another pro tip is there's some old newspapers that are actually bound in these books. So it's pretty much like almost like a whole month's worth of newspapers. There's some of them that have whole years in them that are actually very specific, but normally they're months, as you can see here. This one is 1920 for October, the New York Times. It's all bound in one book. This went for $195. Now, condition is key on these things. These things are so old. They're antiques pretty much now. And so when they're in the attic, they get mold, and look out for mold. Look out for that kind of stuff. Condition is key on a lot of these things. But as you can see here, newspapers, Men Walk on the Moon, July 21st, 1969, New York Times, $172. Now, if this Men Walk on the Moon was like a small town in Nebraska or something, it probably wouldn't go for $172. But New York Times, LA Times, Chicago Tribune. Now, there are some reprints, so be warned on some of the very key dates, like the key, like the D-Day and V-Day and a lot of the World War II stuff. The killing of the assassination of JFK, they reprinted some of those. So just be warned, if a newspaper that has a key date looks too new to be new. I know that's hard to explain, but newspapers are printed in grayscale, or I should say like in a gray paper. Some of the older ones will have they're printed more in a white kind of paper and over time they yellow, as we can see here. The best kind of way to tell if it's a reprint is you're going to see it's going to look brand new, and it's going to look like gray paper. But these older papers, do you see how they have this kind of yellowy tinge to them? And that, as we could see here, it's got fold wear. As you can see here, it's got wear. So anyone that's been in collectibles and antiques, you can kind of tell, even if something was brand new in 1969 and it was put away in an attic and never saw light, and you pull it out 50, 60 years later, it's still going to have some kind of, like, I can't even explain it, like kind of just age wear. I can't explain it. So if you see a newspaper that's a key date, assassination of JFK, I think a lot of the World War II stuff, if it looks too brand new, it's probably a reprint. So just be very careful with that. But like I said, space stuff, space flight, NASA, World War II, key important dates. Keep a lookout for these, because sometimes people just think this is junk, and newspapers actually can go for a good amount of money. Now, not a lot of them, like I said, it's just key dates for sure. Look out for those. Next up, we have these Uggs from Australia, or actually, that's what they're Australia fringe suede boots, ankle leather boots. We actually took a best offer for $49.99 on these, and these were actually in pretty good condition, if not almost near mint condition. And so look out for Uggs. Everyone pretty much knows about Uggs. Condition is everything with these, though. People will buy them in all kinds of condition. Just do your research on these. Uggs, maybe like 3 or 4 years ago, were super hot. You can sell them instantly. The market's kind of cooled down a little bit, but they still go for a pretty good amount of money if you can get them cheap enough and the condition is good. So definitely look out for Uggs for sure. Next up, we have this soft baby alpaca woolly teddy bear, handcrafted from Peru. Now, a pro tip on alpaca bears, it'll actually say on the tag, and for the most part, a lot of this stuff is made in Peru. I haven't did the research on that. I'm not sure if it's some kind of law that maybe in America there's not as much alpacas, or there's some kind of rules and regulations for whatever reason. And if you know, actually leave a comment below. There's lots of alpaca bears that are made in Peru. And if you look in the back here, you can't see it, but it'll say, you know, a product handcrafted in Peru. These things go for a pretty good amount of money. I took a best offer for this one for $21.99. And for the most part, you can definitely find these here and there, thrift stores, estate sales, especially estate sales that have like teddy bears and things like that. So what if you're like, well, I don't know what a alpaca bear is. Like I said, look at the tag. If you've been around it, now understand that it's super soft. So if you have a bear that's like, I can't even describe it. It's very soft. It's the fur is very, very soft. And so just be warned. Some people are allergic to alpaca. So just be warned about that. Also, look at condition. Some of these things could have, I don't know, I want to say syrup. I always want to say syrup. There's so many times where there's sticky stuff. And just make sure when you look at the bears, they're in near mint to mint condition, because you don't want to sell a bear that has gook on it or anything like that, or grime or any of that kind of stuff. So definitely look out for alpaca bears. Now, this is part of the thing where we're going to go a little bit deeper in here and show you some of the prices on some alpaca bears. Of course, Stife, if you don't know about Stife, definitely look up at that stuff. Vintage Stife, some important pieces can go for thousands of dollars. As you can see here, we have a huge black bear. This is actually 24 inches. This is huge. If we scroll down here a little bit more to like kind of the reality of stuff that you might be able to find, you know, we got these Charlie bears, $240. We can go down here. Charlie bear is another kind of look, and they all have these very unique looks to them. We got literally an alpaca thing right here, and that's pretty funny. There's some more Stife bears, so definitely look out there for that. Alpaca bears are still very super hot for sure, so definitely look out for alpaca bears and stuffed animals. Next up, we have this hand-woven reversible Navajo tapestry rug, and this thing is incredible. Some actually if you can, here's the thing, like there's a lot of things about selling Native American things on eBay, and so if you actually find a really rare one or something that's old, definitely contact a museum. There's lots of them in New Mexico. Show them a photo. A lot of those people that work there, that own those galleries, are very reputable. Medicine Man Gallery is probably one of the ones that I would contact. I think Mark Stubble or Subble owns that, and he does YouTube videos. Really cool guy. As a matter of fact, I need to do a video on his stuff, but look out for this stuff. There was a Antique Roadshow that aired probably like 5 or 6 years ago. Actually, probably was later. A guy had a blanket that was a Navajo blanket. It was in beautiful condition. I think it sold for like $2 or $3 million. It was just something that he said he had laying on the side of his bed for like 20 years. Who would know he had like $3 million just sitting there. So like I said, know your stuff. Know the rules about this one. Huge shout out to Paula. This is actually a great sale on this, and so definitely look out for any kind of Navajo and amazing stuff like this. Once again, I'm Chris, the Thrift Shop Hustler. If you enjoyed this video, definitely click the like button, subscribe, click the bell for notifications. I definitely hope this video helped you out in some sort of way, and if it did, show me some love, leave a comment below, and we will see you next time. Take care.